This video is about the Nazis' seizure of power on the 30th of January 1933. The actual event was that the German president, Paul von Hindenburg, proclaimed Hitler Chancellor. Hitler's two predecessors as Chancellor, Franz von Papen and Kurt von Schleicher, were influential during this time. To the background, Germany became a republic before the First World War ended, and this led to the stab in the back legend. Lots of Germans believed that the Democrats in Berlin were responsible for the defeat in the First World War, not the undefeated army. Hostilities of this war ended on the 11th of November 1918. Around about half a year later, the Treaty of Versailles was signed, but this treaty was regarded as a humiliation by the Germans because of the loss of territory, high reparations, limitations to the military, and the sole responsibility for the war. On the 11th of August 1919, the Weimar Republic was established. But the way to the Weimar Republic was accompanied by civil war-like conditions. There were strong anti-democratic left and right-wing extremists. The civil servants of the Weimar Republic were already active during the imperial era. They only partially supported the Republic. The Weimar Constitution gave a strong position to the president, and that made sense with regards to the first president, the Social Democrat Friedrich Ebert. He was the guarantor of democracy. But this should become a problem when the conservative Paul von Hindenburg became president, who did not like democracy too much. Germany suffered very much under the Great Depression of 1929. There were general elections in 1930, and the NSDAP, the Nazi party, became the second strongest party. But there was a minority government by a rather moderate politician. But Brüning, the chancellor, started to base his governance on emergency decrees, meaning the president legitimized his government, not the parliament, and that is of course a problem. Now, keep in mind, Hitler was not born in Germany, he was born in Austria, and for a long time he had no passport, but in 1932 Brunswick naturalized Hitler, and only this made possible that he could become Chancellor. Now Hindenburg proclaimed von Papen Chancellor, and von Papen made extensive use of emergency decrees. There were more elections in 1932, and now the Nazi party was the strongest party. But von Schleicher was proclaimed Chancellor, and the conservatives thought, if we bring the Nazis into government with us together, we can somehow tame them. So von Papen and Hitler negotiated. They came to a solution. On the 30th of January 1933, Hindenburg, the president, proclaimed Hitler Chancellor. The next day, the parliament was dissolved. And now the idea to tame the Nazis, that doesn't work, it didn't work at all. You can see this on the 22nd of February, 50,000 paramilitaries became armed auxiliary policemen. Then there was the Reichstag fire, which led to the passing of an act which abolished basic rights and made the persecution of the opposition possible. The next election was on, and the Nazis and the right-wing DNVP won the majority. Furthermore, the communists' mandates were just declared expired, and so now the right-wing Nazis had a two-thirds majority. It should be mentioned that the first concentration camp was established as early as the 20th of March 1933. The parliament then passed the Enabling Act, meaning that the government now has legislative powers, so there was no parliament needed anymore. There was the Acts of Coordination that dissolved the federal structure of Germany, so everything was now directed towards the Nazi government. The terror against minorities and the opposition started early. The SR did this from April to June 1933. And you could see this clearly on a cultural level on the 10th of May 1933, the burning of the books. Now all parties were banned or dissolved themselves. There was only one party anymore, the Nazi party, NSDAP. Then there was, on the 30th of June 1934, the Night of the Long Knives. Internal enemies of Hitler were murdered or arrested. When the president died, Hitler was the sole leader of Germany, and on the 19th of August 1934, the military had to swear the oath of loyalty to Hitler. The National Socialists penetrated then all areas of the state and society, the persecuted minorities and the political opposition, and this culminated in the Holocaust. Germany's rearmament was intensified, and then from 1939 onwards there was the Second World War. That was the Nazis' seizure of power in 5.